in this part of the series, I need to make this market marker class, which is the little actual marker on the map. And also I'm going to work with this location pop-up menu class, which is anytime you click one of the market markers, this should pop up with all of the information about that specific market. Okay, so let's go over and start the code. Where I left off last time was this add market function, and what we need to do in here is create the market marker, add the market marker to the map, and keep track of the marker's name, I guess. This part is so that I make sure I'm not adding the same marker twice if I move the map and the same location is still on the screen, okay? Because otherwise this add market, I'm gonna have to do a little bit of change in here, but otherwise add market will add that same market, which I don't need to duplicate, okay? So create the market marker. I need to make that class. So I'll write a new Python file called market marker, okay? And yep, I'll add it to Git. And if I go back here, so the Python code for my market marker class, basically I just want to make sure I open up this pop-up. And I'm actually not going to create a new function. I'll just work with the onRelease function, and I don't even need to work with Kivy because this is so simple. So I kind of had things a bit more complicated when I was thinking this up. But okay, so let's go ahead and from kivy.garden.mapView import map marker pop-up, because remember this is inheriting from the map marker pop-up class. Okay, now class market marker, inherit from that, and now I'll say def onRelease. All right, and then this is where I will open up the dialog, or the location. Let's see, what did I call this? Location pop-up menu. Okay, so open up the location pop-up menu. For now, I'm not going to do that because I just wanted the base here so I can actually get the marker on the map in this part of the code. Okay, now I need to import my market marker. So up here I'll say from market marker import market marker. All right, now create the market marker. So I'll say marker is a new market marker. All right, and actually I need to pass in a little bit of information right here, which is going to be the latitude and longitude. So I'll say like lat equals lat and lon equals lon. And where is this latitude and longitude coming from? Well, it's coming from the market data, which I'm passing to this function. So I can say lat lon is market and then 21 and market 20. So if I, again, you'll see it when I print out all the markets, but each market, again, is just a list of all the data for that market, and the 21st index corresponds to the latitude, and the 20th corresponds to the longitude. Okay, so now when I create my marker, it should have the right latitude and longitude, and to add it to the map, I can just say self.addWidget marker. And self.addWidget marker, remember self is my farmer's map view, so it inherits from the map view. And anytime you add a marker to the map view class, it should show up on the screen. So let's go ahead and take a look and see if this works. I will run it. And boom, all of a sudden, 1 second after moving or like starting up the app, you can see that all of these places showed up. And I moved the map, and here we go again. Right now when you click on it, it doesn't do anything, but we will work on that and open up this location pop-up menu class. But before I do that, again, I want to make sure that every time I move the map, it doesn't automatically put another marker in the exact same spot. So like this guy right here, if I move the map right now, he's going to get registered and added to the map twice. So I don't want to do that. Let's keep track of that. I'll keep track of that by working with the marker's name. So let's see, the name of the market is right here. This is the first, or like this is 0th, right? This is the first item of the market data. So I'll say like name is market 1, and actually I'll move that down here. Keep track of the market's name. I'll say self.marketNames.append name. Market names I haven't defined yet, so let's go up and define it up in here. So market names, I'll just have this be a list. Now anytime I add a market, I'll have the name in this markets list. And then down here for market and markets, I can say name equals market 1, right? And if name in self.marketNames pass else, there you go. I could do continue here. Okay, so let's make sure that I don't duplicate the markers on the map. Let's just run this and make sure it doesn't crash or anything like that. We should be fine here. Perfect. Okay, so good. I've got all my markers there. Now I want to, actually I want to change the image here, because in my design, I've got this nice little blue marker. So I've got a little image that I have brought in right here. I just changed the color of the default marker. So let me go back to my marker class, and I'll say source is marker.png. Now this will update the source to this guy right here, and we should be fine. I'll run it, and we'll make sure everything's blue. Ta-da! Okay, good. So now let's work on making this the pop-up menu open when I click the markers. Now, the pop-up menu, I'll create a new file for. All right, this is the location, what did I call it again? Location pop-up menu. Location pop-up menu. And this, I want to inherit from a special sort of KivyMD widget that I made myself, which is in the KivyMD.uix.dialog file. And I've called it the MD list dialog. This is the dialog file, and you can see this list MD dialog is a class that I've created, and I'll go over it more in a second. Basically what it is a dialog pop-up menu. So inside here I've got a scroll view, and inside my scroll view I have basically like a box layout which just has a bunch of labels inside of it. And the labels basically show the data from the market. Okay, so I have a label that says address, and then another label right next to it, and its text is root.address. And now this root.address, this is kind of the key part. Address, root.website, root.facebook. I've chosen all of these names so that if I scroll down here, this is my listmd dialog, the Python code for it. Okay, so in the Python code for my listmd dialog, I've set up a bunch of string properties, and the names of the properties are the names exactly as they appear in the headers of my big CSV file. So remember, in the CSV file, I've actually cut out the headers here, but in the last video you could have seen that the headers were like address, website, Facebook, okay? So I'm going to work with those headers and use the actual name of the header to set the attribute, that's this thing, because it has the same name as the header. Okay, you'll see that in a minute when I work with the location pop-up menu. So the way that this is working is, so like season 1 date here, whenever I set it, it's going to go and update automatically the label that's got, let's see if I can find it, season 1 date. Okay, it'll automatically update this guy. So whenever I set the string property, so like root.season1 date, it'll set this text. And then when I go set season 2 date, it'll set this text, okay? So that's how I'm gonna automatically populate my dialog box. And a little bit more of information right here before I actually do the coding. You can see I've created these couple other subclasses. So this is, instead of using just a normal MD label, I've created what I call the thin label, and it just changes a little bit of the size. So this says I want the size to take up all of the horizontal size and no size hint for the vertical size or the height. and then align the text in the middle, and then set the height of the thin label to be the height of actually like just the text. That's what this texture size indexed at 1 means. Okay, and I've done the same thing pretty much for this label button, but now it's got a button behavior sort of in there. And same with the box layout, it says just make everything as thin as possible because it looks better. And then last thing here is this import for web browser. Web browser is a really cool module that lets you open up a URL, so like google.com, facebook.com, on any platform. So you can say I've imported web browser as web browser. So when I go down here, you can see that I'm using web browser.open, which means open up a URL, and then self.text. So the website is going to be shown in the button, and when you click the button, it's going to open that website in whatever is the default web browser for your Mac or Windows or Android or iOS. This is cross-platform, okay? So that's really cool. All right, now that I've explained a little bit about what's going on in here, this is the massive, remember, MD list, or list MD dialog widget that I've created. You remember, you will not have this unless you copy the code from my GitHub repository here. So remember, this is where I'm working. If you just clone KivyMD yourself, you won't have this feature. So make sure you go download this from the GitHub repository that is in the link down below. All right, now that I've sort of tried to explain a bit what's going on, let's actually use that to code, okay? So I'll say class, location, pop-up, menu, and I'm inheriting from MD list dialog. And now I'll say definite. So whenever I create this pop-up menu, I want to, of course, call super.init, right? Because this guy has to initialize. And now I want to set all of the fields of market data. Basically what I mean here is set each one of these guys, okay? Set the season 3 date, season 3 hours, all that stuff. And to do that, I'm going to take one argument in init, which I'll call market data. And to pass that, let's see, market marker. I'm going to have here in my market marker, market data will be an empty list. And now back in Farmer's MapView, this is the market data that I want. So I'll just say marker.marketData equals market. There we go. So now I've got all the data for that market passed to my market marker. And then when I release or press on the market marker, I want to open up a location pop-up menu, and I want to pass self.marketData. Okay, that's easy enough. I just need to make sure that I import the location pop-up menu. So I'll say from location pop-up menu, import location pop-up menu. All right, there we go. Now what's happening in location pop-up menu? How do we actually instantiate these fields? To do that, I need to grab the headers from my CSV file. I have them copy pasted right here. So again, my headers are FMID, market name, website, Facebook, and don't forget these are spelled exactly the same as I've got them here. Okay, this is super important because I'm going to use the set attribute function instead of Python, which you'll see how that works in a second. Okay, now I'm going to split my headers little string there on the commas because I want to turn this into a list, and each one of the headers is comma separated. So I'll say headers is headers.split by a comma. Now headers is a list. Each item is FMID, then market name, then website, and this market data is a list of the exact same size, exact same length, and headers has like FMID, and market data has the data for FMID. Market name is the second attribute of headers, and then the actual name of the market is the second attribute of market data. So you can see where I'm going with this, right? So I'll say for I in range, length of headers. Oops. Okay, so I'll say attribute name is headers I, right? And then attribute value is market data I. Okay, so when this is 0, I get FMID and the actual FMID of the market data. Hopefully I've hammered that enough. Now I can use the neat set attribute function that's just built in Python, and I'll say set the attribute for self, and the attribute that I want to set is attribute name, and the value that should go in there is attribute value. Now the way that this works, just a quick little demo, if I said set self foo bar, this would be identical to doing something like up here saying foo equals bar. Or similarly, if I said self.foo equals bar. That's what this set attribute function does. So it's a really neat way to update variables using like a string instead of having to reference the variable. There you go. Now one more time, let me just run through the logic of how everything is working here. So in my map view, whenever I move the map, I create a marker and I add it to my map. Okay? When I click the marker, it calls this onRelease function and it instantiates the location pop-up menu and passes all of the market data. Now, when the location pop-up menu is instantiated, it takes the market data and it loops through each one of the headers, and it goes through each header, gets the data for that header, and then sets the attribute of like header name and then the value. And you can see that over here, this is the header name, and then basically I'm setting the value here. And then if I go look up at my KV code, it basically is setting the text for like the flowers label, and it sets root.flowers. Okay? Wow, I hope I explained that decently. This is kind of a tricky thing to wrap your head around if you're not actually coding it yourself. So make sure you're taking the time to do this yourself and walking through all the code. I'm going to run this now. Oops, it doesn't like this. KivyMD.uix.dialog. It doesn't like importing MD. What did I call this? List MD dialog. Whoops, there we go. Okay, I'll run this and let's see it actually working. If I click this guy here, nothing happens. Oh, so it it created the location pop-up menu. Now I need to say menu is that, and now menu.open. There we go. Okay, I'll click this. Boom. You can see all of my data is in here, and I'm missing data for a bunch of these. If it accepts eggs, it says Y for yes, flowers, yes, seafood, no. Or if it's sold at this farmer's market. So there you go. You can see I've got all my data in here. It's pretty neat. You can see these little buttons. When I click on this, it should open it up in my web browser. So this is using the webbrowser.open function. Some of these websites are pretty like weird. They take forever to get to. Yeah, not an incredible website, but hey, at least they have one. Most people don't for the farmer's market. So good for them. Better for us that we're making this cool project, right? Let's see. Next thing we need to do is, that looked pretty weird. So let me go ahead and change menu dot size hint. Maybe I'll set this to like take up 0.8 of the width and 0.9 of the height. And let's try running this one more time. When I click my marker, there, that looks pretty good. If this was on like a phone, it might look something like that. Not perfect, but okay. All right, so there you have it. We've got our pop-up in there. You can get out of it just by clicking on the side. And when you zoom around the map, all the markers will pop up again. And you can see everything that the market sells. So we've got most of the functionality finished in our app already. It's a pretty quick thing. If you've got any questions, again, about maybe some of that tricky stuff that I tried to go over with like the list MD dialog, this guy here, leave them in the comments. Maybe I'll be able to help you out. Maybe some of the other people watching will be able to help you out. In the next video, I will probably skip the GPS class because I want to get to that at the end, because it's going to take a little bit of different work depending on the platform. So based on the platform that I'm working on in that video, I'll have to sort of change the GPS code. So next video, I'll go over the search pop-up menu class, and we'll figure out how to, search by address, all right, and take the map there. All right, so I hope that video was helpful to you guys. I hope you liked the tutorial, and thank you for watching.